God told me this morning to have this lady sing a song to you tonight. And as she sings this song, she's going to give you part of a testimony of what God brought her through. And some of you need to hear this, because when you hear how Holy Ghost will keep you in the battle of a storm, not knowing if your son is alive. And then God told me that she's going to minister to 3 people in here tonight, and when she does minister to those 3 people, there's going to be a life change in their lives, period.
In 1971, my baby son was playing out in the yard, and I had just walked into the house to get something. I don't even remember what it was. He was 2 years old. When I came back out, my son was gone. I wasn't a Christian. And I came unglued. I have cancer in the 4th stage. And I had no place to turn to except to my mom and dad. And I knew that when I went home to my mom and dad, even though I was 27 years old, one rule in their home was, as long as you live in this house, you'll go to church. Church, I wasn't ready to change my life. There's fun in sin, and I was having fun. I was in the bar rooms. I was with men. I was with drugs. But you know, there's a wall that God will put you up against. And you can't go any other place but where He tells you to. And that's the way that my wall was. To go home to my mom and dad's. See, God hadn't worked nothing out in my life. He just made me miserable. But when I went home, on Wednesday. And they'd already told me they didn't know if I'd live or if I wouldn't live. My son's gone. What did it matter if I lived or not? But it mattered to God. I mattered to Him. Me, an old sinner girl. I mattered to Him. And when I went down to the altar that night, I didn't bargain with God. I didn't say, Lord, if you'll give me my son back, or if you'll let me live Wednesday, I'll serve you. I said, Lord, if I ever see my son again or not, just make sure he's taken care of. Make sure that whoever has him will love him and take care of him. And whether I die Wednesday or not, Lord, I've got 4 days to serve you. Whether you want me or not, forever how many days that I have in my life, I'm going to serve you. Wednesday, I went in for surgery. The doctor comes in and he says, I want to check you one more time. Because you see, the cancer had already started coming out on the outside of me. And I said, okay. When I went into the examination room, he just kind of moved back and he looked at me and he says, I don't find any sign of cancer in your body. None whatsoever. But I still went on for close to a year, close to 2 years actually. And when they would call me and tell me to come down to Texas that they had my son, I went down to pick him up. You see, I didn't have the Holy Ghost. I was saved, but I didn't have the Holy Ghost. I knew that Jesus lived inside of me. And I was supposed to go the next morning at 9 o'clock and pick him up. Well, I woke up that morning speaking in tongues. My mom was laying there looking at me, and she had gone down with me, and I said, Mother, what happened? My mother's a real good Baptist, but she always encouraged us to go to Daddy's church, which was total Pentecostal and holiness. She was a believer. She says, you've been speaking in tongues for about a half hour. Well, I got up and, church, I was on a high that I had never been on before. I didn't know that kind of a high existed. So I went down to the police station to get my son. And my son wasn't there. I was hurt. I cried. And I wondered, why, God? They said they had him. They said that he would be here. But church, this time I could endure it because I found that comforter. Or he found me while I was asleep. Because you see, God knew that I was going to have it, that comforter in my life, in order to face that my son wasn't going to be there. It was months Still yet, I'm serving God. Without cancer and without my son. But I trusted God. Whether I ever saw my son again or not, I still trusted God. And one day, my sister called. She was with the Denton Police Department. She said, Ruth Ann, well, she told my mom, don't come down here. Don't bring her down here, Mother. I'm going to fly me and Todd in to the airport down in Cincinnati tonight. And I came home from work and my mother says, Ruth Ann, we're going down to Cincinnati. Oh, okay. I thought, okay, we're going out to eat or church or whatever. I didn't know. And on my way down there, she said, don't get your hopes up. But Dolores is supposed to fly in to Cincinnati with Todd. Church, my heart dropped. My heart came up to my mouth. I wanted to shout. I wanted to cry. But that night, God sent my son home to an old sinner girl. He was working things out, little by little. And it doesn't take overnight. Oh, God can do things overnight, church. But sometimes it takes a lot longer. And in my case, it took a lot longer.